Okay, this is geometry 1.3. It's actually part 3. Sorry about all the different parts. There's kind of a lot of information in 1.3 though that I want you to know. So we talked in parts 1 and 2, the midpoint between 2 points. And there's a formula that you could use if you're given 2 points in a coordinate plane and you want to find the midpoint of. So if you have 2 points in a coordinate plane, you'd have the x and y coordinates of each of those points, and then you can graph those on an x and y axis if you want to. And what you did last year, say when you found the slope between 2 points, or you might have also found the distance between 2 points, which is what we'll talk about later as well. You need a way to tell those 2 points apart instead of just saying xy for the first point and xy for the second point. If I just say x, there's really 2 different x's that I could be talking about. So we label each of the points using subscripts, x subscript 1, y subscript 1, or you can just say x sub 1, y sub 1, and then x subscript 2, y subscript 2. So those are your 2 points. To be able to find the midpoint between the 2 points, if I call those points A and B, the midpoint's going to be a point itself. So you would just label your midpoint like M usually, but the midpoint's going to have an x coordinate. The midpoint's going to have a y coordinate as well. The midpoint formula is as follows. It's just finding the average or the mean of the 2 x coordinates and then the 2 y coordinates. So I'm going to label this capital M for midpoint. The x coordinate of the midpoint is x sub 1 plus x sub 2, and then divided by 2. The y coordinate is y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. You should really kind of know or memorize the midpoint formula, but if you just think about finding the average of the x's and finding the average of the y's, then you really won't need to do much memorization. So for example, if you want to find the midpoint of a segment whose endpoints are -9, 1 and 12, -6, you can graph those 2 points in a coordinate plane and possibly just use like a straight edge or a ruler and find the midpoint by going halfway between, but I'm going to use the midpoint formula in order to find the midpoint between those 2 points without graphing them. The first point that's given, -9, 1, I'm going to label that x sub 1, y sub 1. So -9 is x sub 1, 1 is y sub 1, and then 12 is x sub 2, and then -6, y sub 2. And then I can plug those numbers directly into the midpoint formula. To find the midpoint, you might be able to do certain things in your head, but x sub 1 plus x sub 2, so -9 plus 12 divided by 2. That's going to be the x coordinate of the midpoint. We'll calculate that in a second. The y coordinate, y sub 1, 1 plus y sub 2 plus -6, so same as -6 over 2. And that's going to be the midpoint between those 2 points. So -9 plus 12, 3 divided by 2, either 3 halves or 1 1/2. And then y sub 1, 1 plus y sub 2, -6, so 1 minus 6, -5 divided by 2, -2 1/2. If I actually graph those points, again, -9, 1 is in the second quadrant, 12, -6 is in the fourth quadrant. If I drew my segment between those 2 points, then right smack dab in the middle is 1.5, -2.5. Or it should also be the case, I'm going to just draw a rough sketch of that so you can see. I'm going to go by 5s here. So this would be -10. This is -5 here, 5, 10, -5, and then, excuse me, -10, but a -9, 1, roughly right here. And this is a really rough sketch. 12, -6, roughly right here. So here's point A, point B, and then if I draw a segment between those 2 points, then the midpoint, 1.5, -2.5, it's going to be roughly right there. It looks like it's on the x-axis. It's just a poor drawing. But it should also be the case that AM, that segment, is congruent to MB. And you can try that on a piece of graph paper or possibly Desmos for a better diagram or drawing.